You don't fall for nonsense, and that makes you dangerous in the best way. You're 5 steps ahead, but you don't brag. That's what haunts them. You don't need to announce that you're 5 steps ahead. Your actions do it for you. And what really leaves people unsettled is how calm you are about it. You're not out here trying to prove anything or flex how smart you are. You're just moving quietly, intentionally, and with a confidence that makes people nervous. They thought you were slow to react. They thought you were clueless. But what they didn't realize is that you were already 10 moves into the future, watching them trap themselves while you stayed 3 decisions ahead of the setup. You didn't get this way by accident. Life trained you. The betrayals, the gaslighting, the fake love, all of it sharpened your mental reflexes. You had to learn how to observe, how to analyze patterns, how to predict behavior before it happened. So now you don't just react to what people say. You study why they're saying it, when, and what they're trying to get out of you. That kind of mental clarity is rare. It's intimidating. And it's why they talk behind your back, but never to your face. People used to think you were naive because you didn't clap back or argue right away. What they missed is that you were calculating. You were seeing the full board. While they were obsessing over the moment, you were studying the pattern. You knew what they were going to do next, and you quietly positioned yourself in a way that when it all fell apart, you'd be untouched. That's not luck. That's high-level awareness. And that's why people gossip differently about you now. You're not seen as soft. You're seen as strategic. The truth is, you've embarrassed a lot of people without even trying. You've shown them that being loud isn't power. Being loud is what insecure people do to cover how little they know. You stay quiet because you already understand the game, and that realization eats them up. They're finally realizing you weren't lost. You were focused. You weren't quiet because you were clueless. You were choosing which battles to ignore. And now that the results are showing, people are telling others, be careful with that one. They're not loud, but they're smart as hell. And they move like they've already seen how it ends. You never needed a degree to decode deception. You didn't need anyone to teach you how to spot a lie, read a room, or feel the energy shift when someone walked in with bad intentions. That's something you've carried since birth. A kind of raw, unpolished intelligence that isn't based on textbooks or diplomas, but on truth, awareness, and spiritual alignment. People don't understand how you're able to pick up on things they miss, even with all their so-called education and status. That's what makes them uncomfortable. They were trained to believe that intelligence looks a certain way. They expected it to show up in someone wearing a suit, using big words, and holding a title. But then you showed up with no need to perform, no need to prove. You just see things. You feel when someone's smiling but hiding a knife. You sense when the words sound sweet, but the energy is sour. You notice the patterns, the pauses, the tiny shifts in body language that expose more than 1,000 words ever could. That is a gift. And it didn't come from a university. It came from a divine download. You're the type of person who can sit in a room full of people and know exactly who's lying, who's pretending, who's envious, and who's broken. You don't need them to say much. Their spirit speaks louder than their words. That kind of perception scares people who depend on image, because with you, their masks slip, their performance doesn't land, and when they realize you see right through them, their whole game falls apart. It's not that you're trying to expose people. You're just built to recognize truth. It's who you are. And now they're realizing that some of the most powerful minds don't walk around in polished packages. Sometimes they walk in humility, in silence, in someone who wasn't supposed to make it. And yet here you are, reading situations better than the experts, understanding human nature better than trained psychologists, and moving in ways that leave people speechless. You're living proof that God does not need a classroom to activate a calling. You have always known how to play the long game. You learned early on that not every room deserves your full display of intelligence. Sometimes it is smarter to hold back, to stay quiet, to let others reveal themselves. While they were performing, trying to sound deep, trying to impress, you were sitting still and collecting data. You watched how they moved. You listened to what they said, and more importantly, what they did not say. You let them underestimate you on purpose, Because you knew that real power does not need to prove itself right away. They assumed your silence meant confusion. They thought you were slow, maybe even clueless. But what they did not realize is that you were just not invested in their ego games. You were 2 layers deeper, analyzing patterns, reading body language, catching inconsistencies. You were learning who was pretending, who was insecure, who needed validation, and you were doing it all without saying a word. Now the tables have turned. The ones who once talked over you are realizing they were talking in circles. The ones who used to throw around big words and complicated ideas are starting to look exposed. Because when the situation called for real clarity, real direction, and real discernment, it was you who had the answers. Not the loud ones, not the flashy ones. You, the one they thought was slow. It is not that you are quiet because you are shy. You are quiet because you are strategic. You are aware that people often show you more when they think you are not a threat. So you let them talk. You let them perform. You let them believe they were the smartest person in the room. And in that belief, they expose their flaws, their pride, their lack of substance. You do not rush to correct people. You do not jump into every debate because your goal has never been to win arguments. Your goal has always been to understand the truth. That is a different kind of intelligence, one that does not need applause, one that is rooted in patience, self-control,